Welcome back, team. If you've made it to Volume 3, give yourself some credit. You're proving you've got the grit and the focus to cross that finish line strong. Most people never get this far, but you're not most people. Now, here's the challenge. The hazards we're covering today: powered vehicles, hand and power tools, cranes, excavation, radiation, and more, are the ones that can change a life in an instant. They're the silent risks that exam writers love and that real-world job sites demand you master. Think of this as more than study time. This is you building confidence, sharpening awareness, and setting yourself apart as a true safety leader. By the end of this session, you won't just know the rules, you'll own the mindset that keeps workers safe and helps you ace that OHST exam. So lean in, let's raise that bar together. Powered vehicles create major hazards if not used carefully. Always use train spotters when backing up. Keep clear of moving parts and pinch points, and secure any tools or materials being transported, and never exceed the vehicle's load limits. Operators must stay alert to hazards like crush zones, swing radius, and runovers. Equipment should be inspected daily for working lights, brakes, and horns. And remember, only trained, authorized personnel may operate powered vehicles. Forklifts. Let's cover what you must know for the OHST exam. OSHA says daily inspections aren't optional, they're required. That means tires, controls, lights, forks, and fluid levels get checked before use. Spot a defect? That forklift is out of service until it's fixed. And when it comes to lifting people, never stand on forks unless guardrails are in place. Platforms need tow boards and safety chains. Portable devices? Radios and tablets must be securely mounted. These aren't just best practices, they're compliance checkpoints. Let's talk about forklift load limits. An OHST must know. First rule, never exceed the rated load capacity. That's how tip-overs happen. Keep the load centered and low on the forks to maintain stability. When turning or lifting high, slow it down. Momentum is your enemy. And remember, only trained operators are allowed behind the wheel, and they must follow inspection and checklist procedures. These aren't good habits, they're OSHA expectations and exam points. When it comes to pedestrian safety around powered industrial trucks, this is where accidents happen fast. For the OHST exam, remember, walkways must be clearly marked and pedestrians should stay clear of moving equipment. Operators need to use horns and lights to alert others and always make eye contact with nearby workers. And here's a hand rule: no riders unless the forklift is specifically built and approved for it. These simple actions are safety essentials and exam material. Hand and power tools. Don't let their size fool you. These are high-risk items on the OHST exam. Know the hazards. Hand tools can cut, pinch, or puncture, so inspect and keep them in top shape. And power tools? They can start unexpectedly. Always disconnect them when not in use or during maintenance. Inspect the cords, housings, guards, and switches. Nothing gets a pass. And PPE, gloves, goggles, and face shields are a must. Damaged tools? Tag them and take them out of service. These are exam points that show up again and again. When it comes to battery charging stations, the OHST exam wants you to think safety first. These areas must be well ventilated and fire resistant. Hydrogen gas buildup is no joke. No flames or sparks nearby, none. PPE is mandatory. Face shields, gloves, and aprons protect from splashes. You'll also need eye wash stations and neutralizing agents ready in case of acid contact. And don't forget the fire extinguisher. It must be nearby and ready to go. These are key safety controls and definitely testable. Here we'll talk about hazards and controls, a big focus on the OHST exam. First, machine guarding. OSHA 1910.212 requires that moving parts like nip points, rotating shafts, and flywheels must be guarded. Why? They keep hands, arms, and clothing from coming into contact with dangerous parts. Guards are your first line of defense. Next, pinch points. These are places where hands, arms, or clothing can be caught between the moving parts. The risk isn't minor. We're talking about crushed bones, amputations, even death. So what do we do? These three key control measures. Use physical guards and barriers. Apply lockout tagout during maintenance to prevent unexpected startup, and train employees to recognize and avoid pinch point hazards. For your OHST exam, remember this formula: guard, lockout, train. If you keep that phrase in mind, you'll recall the essential protections OSHA requires. Here we highlight precautions, but the OHST exam wants more than just rules. It tests your ability to apply them. So yes, know your basics: PPE, grounded cords, trained users, and disconnecting tools before part changes. But also think why. Because unexpected startup is a real hazard. That's where LOTO, lockout tagout, comes in. Expect scenario-based questions like what control is missing or what standard is violated. Don't just memorize, analyze. That's how you pass the exam and lead safely on the job. Housekeeping isn't just about cleanliness, it's a major safety control. For the OHST exam, remember, dust, clutter, blocked exits, and panel obstructions are all violations and they're fire risk. Know what to watch. Grease, solvents, and flammable vapors near ignition sources are red flags. And don't forget self-igniting materials, oily rags, for example. The exam may ask about storage, ventilation, or labeling. So think fire triangle, ignition control, and compliance. It's about recognizing the hazard before it becomes an incident. When it comes to hot work and electrical panels, the OHST exam expects you to know the controls and clearances. Hot work, like welding or cutting, requires a permit, fire-resistant blankets, and a 30-minute fire watch after the job's done. Why? Because embers don't care about clock-out time. And for electrical panels, OSHA is clear: 3 feet of unobstructed space, no excuses, no storage. Expect questions that test your ability to spot violations in real-world scenarios. When it comes to cranes, the OHST exam will test both daily and monthly inspection requirements. Daily means checking brakes, hooks, and wire ropes before each shift. Log everything. Monthly, go deeper, inspect mechanical and electrical components, and report defects right away. Don't skip the load ratings either. They must be clearly posted, and you've got to match the load to the crane's class. Class A is light use, B and C moderate, and D and E means heavy, non-stop lifting. Know these categories, they show up on your test. Rigging and hoisting. Don't just know the rules, understand the risk. For the OHST exam, remember, use rated and inspected rigging only. Avoid shock loading and keep everything clean and chemical free. On the hoisting side, never exceed the load limit, ever. You'll also need clear hand signals or communication, and the load path must stay clear. Expect scenario questions where safety breakdowns. Your job is to spot what went wrong before it goes critical. PPE has to do more than just be worn. It must fit properly, be inspected before use, and be in good condition. And remember, the right PPE is always chosen based on the specific job hazard. There are many categories of PPE: eye and face protection, respiratory gear, full body protection, and boots for the feet or gloves for the hands. Some, like disposable respirators, are single-use only. Common examples include goggles, gloves, face shields, and chemical-resistant aprons. All right, this one's a hot topic on the OHST exam, so tune in. Electrical safety isn't just about avoiding shocks. It's about consistently recognizing risk factors before they spark trouble. Never use tools with frayed wires, damaged plugs, or a missing grounding prong. Those are instant red flags. Water and electricity, bad combo. Only use rated equipment near moisture. Repairs, not unless you're trained. Always verify the voltage and make sure insulation is intact. This is foundational material. Expect a few direct questions on these points. Think, would I hand this tool to someone I care about? If the answer is no, tag it out and report it. Another high stakes area, because arc flash incidents are no joke. For the OHST exam, remember OSHA 29 CFR 1910.303 isn't just a number. It's the regulation that sets the standard for electrical PPE. Focus on three essentials. First, live exposed wires over 50 volts. PPE is a must. Second, gloves, rubber, insulated with leather protectors and sturdy footwear. Third, know the emergency plan and have trained personnel on deck. Now, arc flash. It's that explosive jump of current that can cause serious harm. The test loves to ask, what increases that risk? Torn insulation, overloaded circuits, and poor hazard evaluation. Know that scale 0 to 4. Match the PPE to the hazard level. Keep it simple, stay sharp, and you'll ace it. And this one's a must-know for the OHST exam. OSHA expects more than just awareness. You need to know what training every electrical worker must have. Arc flash hazards, suiting up, emergency response, that's your checklist. Now swing right, temporary cords, short term only, OSHA trained installers, and inspect before every use. GFCIs, those are your shock stoppers, especially in wet areas and for portable tools. Know what they do and where they are required. This content is heavily tested, don't miss it. Let's break this down like a pro getting ready to ace that OHST. Excavation safety isn't just about staying out of holes. It's about knowing what can go wrong before you step in. Key takeaway here, know the soil. Type A is the strongest, C is the weakest, and they will test you on this. Next, remember if you're working deep or around confined spaces, harness training isn't optional, it's required. And you can bet PPE questions will show up. High-vis gear and harnesses are your best friends on site. Planning is huge. OSHA expects you to prep ahead, consider soil, utilities, and even weather. So when the exam asks about trench hazards, think, did they plan for it? This is a test question waiting to happen. Burn it into your memory. If you're prepping for the OHST, you must understand excavation safety. Remember the 5-foot rule. Any trench deeper than that, you need cave-in protection like sloping, shoring, or benching. If it's over 20 feet, it has to be engineered. Don't forget spoil piles. They need to stay at least 2 feet back from the edge. Ladders, required every 25 feet when the trench is 4 foot deep or more. And here's a daily habit. Inspect every trench before work starts or after any weather change. If it's not stable, it's not safe. Nail this and you'll be ready for every test question they throw your way. And here's what the OHST exam loves to test: motor vehicle operation, especially on loading docks and with commercial drivers. First, loading docks, monthly checks on lights, chocks, and controls. Never, never pull a trailer until the dock is clear. For training, verify licenses and hit the big 3: impairment, distraction, and defensive driving. Got commercial vehicles? Then you better know your CDL classes, DOT physicals, and operator evaluations. These are liability hotspots, and the exam knows it. Drill this and know your regs. Ace that test. And here's one you don't want to overlook: forklift safety at trailers. Picture this: the trailer isn't chocked, or it's too weak to handle the forklift's weight, and boom, it tips. That's a fail, and worse, a life-threatening risk. For the OHST exam and the field lock in these 3 essentials, the trailer must be chocked and stable, the dock signal must be green, and the floor inside that trailer clean, even and ready for the traffic. These small checks prevent big disasters. When it comes to heavy equipment operation, OSHA is very clear. Safety starts with the equipment itself. First, know what must be on board: seat belts, alarms, brakes, warning lights, extinguishers, wipers, and clear communication devices. These aren't optional, they're life-saving essentials. Next, understand the biggest risk: rollovers and bystander strikes. That's why daily inspections, ROPs, rollover protective structures, and seat restraints aren't negotiable. Finally, for front-end loaders, excavators, and backhoes, match your load to the machine. Keep loads low for stability, avoid sudden or sharp maneuvers, and always use signals so visibility is never compromised. Remember, for your OHST exam, focus on 3 takeaways: required safety equipment, primary rollover risk, and specific precautions for heavy machinery. If you can recall those, you'll be ready. Compressed gases can save lives and power work, but they're also silent hazards if they're mishandled. Start with storage. Cylinders are upright, chained, or racked, and oxygen is kept well away from acetylene to prevent explosion risk. Never roll or drop the cylinders. Use non-sparking tools. For forklift LPG cylinders, gloves are a must. Watch for skin burns from cold surfaces and keep flames, sparks, and smoking far away. Secure the cylinders immediately after installation. Now, welding gases, the big 3: oxygen, argon, and acetylene. Keep oxidizers separated from fuel gases with firewalls, and don't forget, if an acetylene cylinder has been laid flat, it must stand upright for 1 hour before you use it. On industrial hygiene and safety, always keep valves exposed, avoid confined spaces where gases can accumulate, and use Teflon tape properly. Mistakes can turn into explosions. For the OHST exam, zero in on storage rules, forklift cylinder changes, welding gas precautions, and industrial hygiene controls. Those are the points exam writers love to test. Ammonia is a double threat. It's both caustic and corrosive. That means the right PPE isn't optional, it's essential. One key point for the OHST exam: no contact lenses. They can trap ammonia vapor against the eye and make injuries far worse. This topic falls under OSHA 29 CFR 1910.111, which governs ammonia handling. For test purposes, tie that number to ammonia in your memory bank, and don't forget the practical field controls: reflective white tanks to keep heat down, and chalked wheels during unloading to prevent movement. For your exam, remember PPE, OSHA 1910.111, and unloading precautions. Those three anchors will lock in the right answer when ammonia shows up on the test. Radiation questions on the OHST exam often zero in on three key ideas: types, effects, and controls. First, the types. Alpha is the weakest. Paper stops it, but it's dangerous if it's inhaled. Beta slips through paper, but it's stopped by foil. Gamma is the heavyweight. It penetrates deeply and requires lead or water for shielding. Next, ionizing versus non-ionizing. Non-ionizing includes UV, RF, and microwaves. They heat tissue. Ionizing, like X-rays and gamma, can damage DNA and cells. Finally, controls. Lock in the acronym ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable. That means limit exposure time, increase your distance, and use shielding. Also remember liners and barriers to prevent soil and water contamination. So when a radiation question pops up, think alpha, beta, gamma, ionizing versus non-ionizing, and ALARA. Those three anchors will get you to the right answer. Radiation safety on the OHST exam comes down to three essentials: controls, decay, and waste types. Start with controls. Always mark hazard zones clearly using signs or lights. Exposure must be tracked with dosimeters, and access should be restricted with PPE enforced. Next, decay. You don't have to solve the math problems, but recognize the half-life formula. It's a way to measure how quickly radioactive material loses half of its strength. Finally, waste types. High level comes from spent fuel rods. Transuranic involves elements heavier than uranium-92. Low level is everything else, sorted by classes A through GTCC. So when you see a radiation question, think controls to protect workers, half-life for decay, and high transuranic, low for waste classification. Those three anchors will keep you on target. For the OHST exam, you don't need to memorize Curie limits or the detailed classes of low-level waste. What you should remember is that radioactive waste falls into three main categories. High-level waste comes from spent nuclear fuel. Transuranic waste includes uranium and heavier elements. Low-level waste covers everything else, like contaminated clothing or tools. And remember, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission regulates the radioactive waste. On the OHST exam, expect questions about workplace distractions and mobile phone use. It's a top one. Here's what to focus on. First, best management practices. Phones must be prohibited when operating equipment like forklifts and while driving company or personal vehicles for work. Next, remember the risk while walking. A phone can turn a simple step into a trip, a sprain, or a collision. Productivity loss also matters. Now the hazards. Distraction is the main danger. The exam often ties this to two groups: employees driving during work hours and those moving between job sites. Finally, don't forget policy. It's not enough to have rules, they must be written, communicated, and enforceable. Think safety, liability, and lawsuit protection. If you can tie distraction to equipment, vehicles, and enforceable policy, you'll have the right answers. Also on the OHST exam, you'll see proximity alarms tied to preventing accidents in areas with limited visibility. Remember their purpose: to warn employees before danger strikes. Know the common uses: forklifts detecting workers on foot, excavation zones, equipment with moving parts like conveyors, and vehicles backing up. Next, the sensor types. Proximity sensors detect solid objects. Light curtains, on the other hand, break a beam of light if, say, a hand or a body part enters an unsafe area. A simple example the exam loves: automatic garage doors. They use the same technology. Think of proximity alarms as your silent safety net: detect, warn, and prevent before harm occurs. Let's start with the purpose of technical drawings and diagrams. They show equipment layouts and document products, ensuring everyone knows where things are and how they function. Next, know when they're required: emergency plans, evacuation routes, and environmental permit applications like air permits. Now the heart of it: scale drawings. If a line is 1 inch on paper, it equals the real world measurement in the field. Expect test questions about converting scale to reality. Finally, the legend is your key. It decodes the symbols, pipes, roads, equipment, and tells you if the measurements are in feet, inches, or metric. For the exam, remember: purpose, requirement, scale, legend. Those 4 words will guide you to the right answer. On the OHST exam, process flow diagrams are less about art and more about understanding what each shape tells you. First, know where they're used: environmental permit applications and process safety management. Then master the 6 key symbols. If you can quickly match each shape to its meaning, you'll be set for any diagram question the exam throws your way. First, remember OSHA's rule: workplace air should be exchanged 3 to 10 times per hour. That's a key test number. Next, know the methods: natural ventilation through doors and windows, and mechanical systems like HVAC. Be careful about air intake placement. They must never be near loading docks or areas with toxic fumes. Finally, local ventilation may be needed. Think vent hoods for hazardous zones. And here's a critical exam point: air from hazardous areas cannot be recirculated. If you keep those 4 points in mind: frequency, methods, placement, and recirculation, you'll be ready to score on this topic. On the exam, occupancy ratings often show up when safety and emergency planning are tested. Here's the key: it's all about how many exits are required and how much space is needed per person. First, by number of people, 1 to 500 people, you need at least 2 exits. 501 to 1,000 people, bump it up to 3 exits. More than 1,000 people, the code requires 4 exits. Now space matters too. Manufacturing areas must allow 200 square feet per person. Warehouses are larger at 500 square feet per person. The exam is likely to test whether you can match the correct number of exits or square footage with the type of occupancy. So remember: smaller groups, fewer exits; larger groups and specialized facilities, more exits and more space. You did it! Volume 3 wrapped, and with it the entire Identifying Basic Hazards section. That's a major win. You've gone beyond memorizing rules. You've built the mindset of a safety leader. Now keep that momentum rolling. Up next, health hazards, the next step in your OHST journey. Stay sharp, stay motivated, and I'll see you there.